Hey guys, it's Alex, and today I'm here with a book review for The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. This was my first book of 2020. I started it in 2019 and it took me about 2 weeks to finish because honestly, getting through this book was kind of a slog. This is an adult fantasy novel about things I don't really know. The main character, Zachary Ezra Rollins is his last name. I don't remember. They say his full name, like all three names, like every freaking chapter that he's in this book, which is very strange. He discovers this world, this starless sea world. It's kind of a place between time. It's a time pocket or not. It is a pathway to time pockets potentially. There are people down there. There are doors to get there, and then there are some people who want to make more doors and some people who are closing the doors, and then there are a lot of bees and a lot of keys, and I don't really know how to describe this book at all. I could describe the Night Circus for you fairly easily, but this book, I don't really know what the plot was. I don't understand why these characters were here, what they were doing in the story. I don't know why anything happened in the story. I gave it 3 stars. I only barely gave it 3 stars. I almost gave it 2. I didn't think it was a very well-crafted book. I did really enjoy The Night Circus. I gave The Night Circus 4 stars, and I thought it was quite a lovely story. I really loved the writing. I really loved the atmosphere. I loved the setting. I thought it was all just really well done. I gave that one 4 stars. It wasn't like my favorite book of all time. I know some people really, really love that one, and I did have some issues, but it was just like, this book took every issue that I had with the Night Circus and just magnified it tenfold. I didn't like the characters in the Night Circus. I thought they were flat. In this book, they were even flatter. They were modern characters who were involved in all these like technologies, and they were like they were quirky. That was their personality. They were quirky. They knitted Harry Potter scarves, and they baked, and they were socially awkward and shy and oh so funny, quirky, different, special. I don't know. I think characters like that can be done well, but not when their quirkiness is literally their entire personality, like it was for about half the characters in this book, which was incredibly frustrating to me. It was just annoying to read these incredibly single-dimensional characters. There wasn't a single character in this book that I was invested in, and the ones that did have any more dimension than that, it just the slightest amount more dimension, like maybe they were 2-dimensional instead of 3-dimensional. Even those characters, we just didn't see any of them. We were introduced to them, we got a little bit of their stories, and then we were just kind of like, okay, bye person, like, we'll talk to you again in 200 pages when you become relevant-ish. As relevant as anything was in this story, because, like, nothing made sense. And the worst part for me, well, not the worst part, because it was, like, kind of a minor part of the story, but the most annoying part of this book was the romance between the main dude and the main dude's love interest. Zach, the main guy, meets this guy early on in the book called Dorian. Dorian introduces himself. He's the one who kind of initially pulls Zach into this world, and they fall in love, I guess. I don't know exactly when they fell in love because they didn't really interact much throughout the story. They met, they were introduced, and Zach was like, wow, he's kind of hot, which I'm okay with. Like, instant attraction is a thing. I'm very much okay with people being instantly attracted to each other. But then the feelings started getting deeper and deeper, and they started falling in love, and it was like, okay, but every time you're around this guy, he's unconscious. And at one point in the story, one of the other characters was like, you know his name's not even Dorian, right? Like, Dorian's name was not Dorian, and it was never addressed. Like, Zach just kept calling him Dorian throughout the book because they were never together long enough for them to just actually have a conversation and for Zach to be like, hey, I heard Dorian's not your real name. What is your real name? We never found out. I guess it's not important. I guess nothing was really important in this book. It was just very, very strange. And the relationship just felt so fake, and it was never built. Like, there was nothing that was earned in this relationship because Zach and Dorian never had to spend any time together. They were just like falling in love with the idea of each other, which I would have been okay with had it actually been intended as that, but it didn't feel like it was intended as that at all. I heard someone else say that they didn't feel like the relationship was earned, and I 100% agree with that sentiment. It was just so fake. I never felt like Morgenstern actually captured what the Starless Sea was. And I don't want to give spoilers to this, but it's just like, I was confused the whole book. The Night Circus worked for me, I think, in large part because the circus was such a focal point of the story and it was something that was so concrete. It really kept all the fantastical elements of that story grounded. This book didn't have anything like that. I don't really know what the Starless Sea was or what it was intended as. Half of this book, she'd be talking about someone and be like, well, this person is a metaphor. And I'm like, what does it mean that that person is a metaphor? Like, what are you talking about here? Like, what are you trying to portray? Like, I don't know. And maybe if I cared about this story, I would have figured it out or, like, at least gotten closer than what I did. But she didn't make me care. The Starless Sea was just this weird flowy place that was like, what is that? I don't know. It's just how things work. It's just what fate is. It's just what the moon wants. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, they got to a point where I was like, is this just bees? Like, is this the Illuminati of like bees? And honestly, that's kind of how I felt like having finished this book. It's just like, it was all the bees. The bees did everything. Why? I don't know, but the bees were just like controlling everyone this entire time, and that's what I'm sticking with because it makes about as much sense as anything else that happened in this book. Overall, I didn't care. I didn't understand what I was reading. It took me 2 weeks to get through because it was kind of a slog, and I don't really have anything positive to say about this book. It got 3 stars because I did think the writing was kind of pretty, and I was kind of like down to follow along this whole time. I didn't hate it as much as I would have disliked a 2-star book because I do save 2-star books for books that I actively dislike, and I didn't actively dislike this book. I almost would have preferred had I actively disliked it, which just makes me even more irritated because like if I hated it, then at least that would have been something. I would have felt something from this book, but this book didn't make me feel anything. It was just kind of like, this exists in the world. I don't know why, I don't know with what purpose, but it exists. I wouldn't really recommend this book. I didn't get anything out of it. This is not a book that will make me think about anything in the future. It's not something that I'll keep pondering over time because I know some people have said that her books are like very weird, but they keep you thinking. Like, this book will not keep me thinking. I've already stopped thinking about it and I only finished it yesterday. It just seemed like a mess. Like, this whole thing just felt like a convoluted mess, and I was bored and disinterested, and the characters were all flat, and the romance was not great, and her writing style is pretty. I agree with that, but I think it was much more suited to The Night Circus, which I still think was a very lovely book. So, overall, would recommend The Night Circus. Do recommend checking that out. If you really love The Night Circus, I guess give this a go, because some people apparently really enjoy it, but I don't know. I just really didn't find anything of value in this book at all. Let me know down below if you've read The Starless Sea and what you thought of it if you did. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all again soon.